Awesome, guys. So welcome to the first ever Smart Money Sunday. Sorry, Smart Money Sundays. Wyckoff Sundays. All right. Today basically the goal of this call is to really just kind of give you guys a higher time frame bias for what we're looking at for the week, kind of talk about what's kind of already gone down for the week, for the weeks prior, because obviously we're going to be kind of more sticking to like daily 4 hour, 2 hour, 1 hour analysis kind of thing. If you guys have any pairs you guys would like me to look at, definitely you guys can drop them in the chat and I'll go through them. I'm going to start off with dollar pairs and stuff like that. But before we do go into there, I'm going to go ahead and touch on just real quick what we want to do inside of the community. And this is something obviously new that I'm doing. So all of you guys are here, from RFG, or you guys are here from the Discord, right? You guys can all be a part of this. So basically the idea here of what we want to do with the community is I really want to create an area where, really authentically, like I called it the trading floor for a reason. Because really that's like, the kind of environment I want to create, right? When we talk about, trading floors as a whole, you kind of picture a bunch of different analysts all kind of coming together who think similar, who look at the market in similar ways, which in this case, obviously in this group is going to be Smart Money Concepts, Wyckoff, right? And so like, people who you've even gone through the boot camp, if you guys have, touched into that, learning the three main entry models that we talk about, really that's going to be kind of the purpose of this, right? So obviously, for me, really to just go ahead and lead you guys through that, right? We're going to be doing things like the trading floor sessions. These are going to be our live trading sessions we're going to be doing during the week. This is something I've done for many, many years. I love doing it. And it's going to be from basically Tuesday to Thursday every single week, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. most of the time. Sometimes we go longer, sometimes go shorter. And sometimes we'll start at like 8 a.m. For the news events. Whenever there's news events, I'm going to be posting those links as well. So yeah, it's going to be really, really cool for you guys to just, again, this isn't meant to be like a signals group. This is meant to be like guided execution. That's what this is meant to be. Like obviously you guys have learned the theory through boot camps. Maybe through like, just seeing me teach or whatever. You guys have learned the theory, and now it's about like, all right, well, how do we apply that theory when, we're looking at markets that are currently live, right? And that's what the trading floor sessions are going to be really good for. And on top of that, the trade recap videos are also going to be really good for that same reason, because here, you know, we're going to go ahead and post recordings of trades that we've done. So every time we do the trading floor sessions, we're going to record them. And when we get like one that's like a really good example, we're going to go ahead and make a breakdown of that. I have a video that's going to be coming up soon. I have to edit like 3 hours worth of session that we did last Wednesday to make this video. So I know I've been saying it for a while, but I'm going to get to it. So we have the trade recap videos coming, which again is going to be helping you guys with your execution and stuff like that. Now, the biggest side of things that's going to be really exciting about this community that I think is going to make it very unique and is really going to give you guys, who are learning smart money concepts and Wyckoff and taking it very seriously, that's going to give you guys the guidance to just go from, one level to the next, to really head to the point where, you're really reaching professional level trading, when we're talking about, like within live accounts and, being consistent with it, right? So the trade submissions, you can almost think of it like your trading journal, a guided trading journal that your mentor, right, me, is going to be able to, give you guys feedback on, is going to be able to, see and like even get data from your trades that will be put into the leaderboards that are going to contribute to the weekly challenges. So it all starts with this. We're going to be basically having a Google form in here where you guys are going to be able to submit your trades completely. So let me go ahead and pull up the Google form for you guys just to give you guys an idea. Where's it at? Where's it at? Sorry, guys. I got like so many tabs everywhere because I've just been working. I'm going to delete everything after this. But here it is. So this is your weekly trade challenge submission, right? So you're just going to put what your Discord username is, the date, was it live? Was it back testing? Was it demo, right? What did you trade? What session was that trade in? What was the result of the trade? What RR did you secure? Entry model, and then the proof, right? So a screenshot. And so this is all going to come to me in a Google Sheets, right? Where I'm going to be able to organize everything and, update leaderboards and update who did the challenges and who didn't. And basically, like I said, in the Discord, we're going to have specific challenges every week. So for example, this week it's going to be a very simple one. We're just going to be identifying at least 4 type 1 setups. And then, the leaderboards are going to be interesting too, because we're going to be showing like out of all the trades that have been submitted, right? Who are the, traders that are getting, the highest risk to reward on live accounts, highest risk to reward on demo accounts, highest risk to reward on, what's it called? Back testing results as well. Who's, doing the most submissions, right? Who's, what else? Like, maybe just doing like the highest P&L, right? Stuff like that. Like things that we can track very easily through the trade submissions. We're going to be putting here in the leaderboards, and you guys are going to get recognition for your skills and for what you guys have done. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. And then on top of that, obviously as well, we have the get reward section here, which is just going to be, again, encouraging you guys to be consistent inside of the submissions too. So again, like we're going to have basically different trade titles and trade badges. So essentially, like, from what you're submitting, if the trades were taken on live over 50%, then you'll earn this side of the badge. If you're doing 8+ submissions a week, you'll be a strategist badge. And if you've been doing it for a month, 2 months, 3 months, however long it is, you're going to get the last one. So obviously the highest level is going to be the combination of the three that we're talking about here, right? So for example, like live strategist master would be like the highest recognition for consistent live trades over 12 months, like it says there, right? Demo executor graduate, right? So someone who's been doing consistent demo trading for 3 months, stuff like that, right? And so basically, obviously, this is going to be able to kind of show people at a glance who are in the chat, who is on, what level kind of thing, what has everyone been doing. And I think that's going to be really cool. And it's just going to get people to aspire to just reach that next level. A lot of it really just has to do with consistency, but it also has to do with longevity as well. So yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting to do. Is it normal that it shows me that it's only a thread channel and doesn't let me type anything? Yes, that's totally normal. I still haven't given everyone permissions. You shouldn't even be able to see this stuff just yet. Everyone here that's in the Discord should only have the verified public role. And then when you guys, hit me up and, I'll get you guys the trading floor session. But yeah, you guys shouldn't be able to see anything yet. And then, we're going to start the trading floor is officially going to launch on Tuesday when we're going to have our first live session at 9 a.m. So I'd love to see you guys on there, and I'll be on from 9 to 11. So if you guys are watching other educators, whatever, hop in later on. Yeah, so, I'm definitely excited for, launching this new community. Yeah, for those of you guys that are watching the recording, if you guys would like to be a part of the community, definitely just reach out to us on Discord at Aces Unlimited. All right. So yeah, very, very excited. Very, very excited. Yes, there is a link. I'll get you guys the link later on. And again, if you guys are, already a part of the RFG community, you guys obviously have complete access to it. Yeah, just reach out to me. And obviously all the links are all going to be posted in the RFG community as well. So you don't need to be in the Discord if you don't want to, but that's going to be where I'm going to be running things and like, having the most engagement myself. Right. So yeah, like I said, really excited, really, really excited for this new chapter and what we're doing. And I think it's going to really create a lot of great results, for people, in their trading. Right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and tap into the Wyckoff Sundays, right? So we're going to talk about the different higher time frame zones that we're potentially looking at, what's kind of played out so far in the market, and go from there, right? So I saw someone wants me to talk about gold, so I'll definitely get into that. So obviously first, we obviously want to start off with dollar. So the US dollar is always where I start when we're going into live sessions, when I'm going into market prep, whatever it might be. Yeah, we've recently had, a pretty massive move that has only just continued now. We could see a gap in the market that's happened, right? So this is where the market closed on Friday, and now Sunday we've had the market open, and we could see dollar just absolutely dying right now. We can definitely see from a Wyckoff perspective, evidence of redistribution, right? So, basically, obviously, redistribution being accumulation that is turning into a distribution up here. What we can really see is over here at the top of this move that we've had to the downside, we can see evidence of manipulation, right? So we can see, obviously, first and foremost, for a while, price holding these highs, pretty much like just like creating like that resistance, right? We can obviously see also like coincidentally, here, where we can even see, not really coincidentally, but this is intentionally, but we could see like this significant high that's happened. The market kind of created liquidity just below there. So you can imagine just how many people are looking to sell in here, in here, in here, in there, right? um, and then maybe putting their stops above this level, right? And then from there, we end up seeing the market go ahead and give us a UTAD, right? Pushing right up, and creating this huge one candle, right? So this is what I call an institutional candle, right? A candle that goes ahead and removes liquidity. We have like really like just one move to the upside, completely taking that out, right? So really just showing the impulsiveness of it and like the intention behind it being to clear out any of the sellers that were sitting here and here, right? From there, we end up having a second institutional candle right here, right? Where we end up just taking the internal liquidity that's sitting over here, right? So we can see like, we have like this one huge candle to the upside that happened on the 16th, right? And we can see what is it that we're targeting, right? We're targeting all of the sellers that were really inside of this here, basically, right? And then we see just like one candle coming up, right? So really, really strong confirmations that this high can hold after we get this second candle, because now we're really having two signs of manipulation, right? We're having the first sign above these highs, and then we're having the second sign here, right? So really, really clean setup up there at the top, right? The rest of these are really opportunities, over in here and over in here, right? That look again, right, pretty clean as well. And we can obviously see that, that's how the distribution ended up just playing out from there, just continuing to hold order flow and stuff, right? So here I would say like, even looks like a second redistribution where we have the market going ahead and accumulating down here, right? Kind of giving actually some pretty nice buy potential from like previous areas like this one. Obviously that was short-lived, right? But we definitely see that the accumulation did play out in that discounted zone. And then we end up seeing the market kind of doing the same thing that it does there at the top, and it goes ahead and turns into a distribution by sweeping out previous highs right over here, right? So yeah, like really right now, like obviously coming off of a redistribution and just seeing how bigger time frame as a whole, dollar really, even though we had like this short-term buying here where we had a lot of reaccumulation opportunities, like here, actually, let's just focus in on that. So even though like right around here, we could see since like September, we've had just constant reaccumulation opportunities on dollar. So just seeing, reaccumulations here, reaccumulation there, right? Reaccumulation there. But realistically, that's been very short-lived, right? When we actually look at it, inside of this zone over here, right? When it comes to like swing highs that are creating swing lows, this is the real true market structure that we're seeing, right? Between here to here, basically, right? So this is the high that goes ahead and goes down and creates this low down here, right? A lot of people might have looked at, this high as like potentially the high to go ahead and bring us down. Or maybe they would have seen, oh, we had this lower high to then create this lower low. But, this isn't really a very strong lower low, right? We can really see how the market, when it makes that low, just goes ahead and sweeps, right? I actually remember this happening. I was in Dominican when this happened. And then, we went ahead and like swept out these lows. And from there, that ended up being the bottom for like a while. But again, I don't think that's going to be the long-term, bottom necessarily, right? If there is like, some buy setups in here, like, I don't mind taking it. But the reality is that, it would be very much like a short-term counter trend trade, because in reality, what we've done so far from here to here is really just done a pullback back into this zone where we previously had manipulation to then continue to come down, right? So this was pretty hard to spot, right? For me personally, like when I was talking about this back in the day, I was personally looking to see even like this high here get ran out, right? So I was kind of hoping that we could even get up into, this extreme area here, right? But when we really look at it, like within this high here that created the low, there's definitely like the signs of manipulation really start, where's the really big buying start? Like right around here, right? Where we really buy up and then sell off very quickly. That's exactly the type of, buy to sell motion that we would want to see, to really look at this to be a swing high, right? So that's why, for me, I was kind of hoping that we could get deeper into that area, but instead, we did really come enough into it, to be honest, to go ahead and continue to come down. And again, the harder it is for people to position at the top, the better chance it is that we're actually going to see that hold long term, right? So personally, guys, like, I'm starting to think we're probably going to end up continuing to the downside here on dollar. So really what we would want to see is, just redistributions happen again, right? So the same way that over here, we were obviously like looking for buys inside of there and stuff, we want to be doing the same thing now that we've really shown another redistribution here. We want to be looking for these smaller redistributions that happen inside of pullbacks here, right? So we'd want to see the market essentially go ahead and create signs of an accumulation here, probably on smaller time frames, to go ahead and eventually, give us a pullback to do a redistribution, right? Ideally, inside of where this previous redistribution happened up here, maybe this where price stopped over here, but we'd want to see some kind of pullback to go ahead and look to see this really short off because, even though for me, it's like, I do agree that this will probably continue to sell off and like, we probably will end up reaching, we could see levels down here, right? I know it's so messy, guys, but we could most likely end up seeing us reach down to levels like even, this would be really our extreme area, right? Like all the way down in here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this, like, really just continue to do that, push to the downside here and reach down towards there. So really, I'd be, from a bigger time frame perspective, I'd really be treating pullbacks, pushes back up as reasons to continue to sell off. Because again, there's no real reason to, say that we have, necessarily flipped bullish at all, right? Yes, we broke this high right here, right? But, this really, when we broke it, we really just did it almost like a sweep, right? So, the only thing that could really convince me to like continue to buy this would be if, we had like, again, like a very sharp reaction all the way up and like basically past the previous redistribution. And the previous redistribution is all the way up here, right? So I would want to see price break that order flow, and then maybe we can go ahead and like look for follow-ups inside of here. If this does end up being like a sweep and we do end up like recovering really hard, then, maybe we can look to follow up, right? But until then, for me, I think I'd rather just go ahead and if we do pull back into here, look at that as, pullbacks for shorts and continue with, the higher time frame bias that we've really been, looking at as of late, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking with dollar. And, again, especially when we make moves like this, like chances are, a lot of people are gonna be wanting to buy, they're gonna be wanting to buy down in here just because we're at a cheaper price. But at the end of the day, guys, what's the structure telling us? To me, the structure is telling us that we are still bearish. Okay, guys. So we have to wait for the real signs to do so, right? To really look for the buys again, right? Because that's kind of what I feel like most people do wrong, with like doing smart money without kind of having that, Wyckoff background too, is that they'll kind of see an area of manipulation and be like, oh, okay, perfect, we're mitigating. But there has to be more context than that, right? Are we even bullish, right? Why do we need to mitigate anything if we're not even bullish, right? Like think about the reason why we mitigate, right? It's so that the banks can, take out their positions that are hurting them, take out the sells that are hurting them, in order to continue to buy, right? But in reality, the banks want their sells right now. I would say they, by how things are looking, they're looking more for continuous redistribution to make a new low than it would be to, necessarily start buying just yet, right? Maybe when we get down in here, we can look for more buys or at least just below the current low. I don't know. But for me personally, that's what I'd personally be looking for indices and for currency and stuff that relate to dollar is just continuing to sell, right? So yeah, short-term wise, can we find opportunities? Maybe, right? But I think that right now the market is giving us absolutely nothing, no reason to look for buys. So let's continue to just wait and get some good moves here because this is the exact situations I don't want to be in when like we just have huge moves that are going in the same direction as the trend. If I'm not already in like in areas like this or in areas like this, then like there's no point in me like trying to like sell here or trying to buy here just because I want to be in a trade, right? We want to wait until the higher time frame really aligns. But yeah, overall, pretty clean redistribution that we saw continue last week. So I think we're gonna, like I said, continue to do that to the downside, right? So when it comes to things like EU, same kind of thing as well, right? Obviously here I have some executions on some trades that I took, live. But we're gonna go ahead and just focus in on, just like the schematics from here, right? So obviously we can see like, just like with dollar, right? Euro USD has been on a tear to the upside, meaning like, dollar having a tear to the downside, right? For me, I think it would make sense to see, when it comes to a target, right? Like a higher time frame target, we most likely will be coming back into this area of imbalance that we can see that the market went ahead and like, just like barely missed, right? So I would probably expect this to at least continue into there. In here, if we see signs of distribution, maybe, right? Maybe we can look for it. But at the moment, in terms of like at least looking for sells here, that's not really the best idea because even though we have like the market going ahead and like creating all these highs and like manipulating up, one thing that's always really important to me is when we come back, right? Like where we are right now, right? When we come back, like where we are now, I want to go ahead and look at what happened in the low that we directly came from, right? So if we directly came from this low here, right, that pushed us to the upside, what type of thing do we see in that low? In this low, do we see signs of liquidity, or in this low, do we see signs of reaccumulation or manipulation basically at the bottom, right? And when I look at the bottom here, right, that's what I personally see, right? Like if we follow the order flow here, we haven't broken order flow at all, right? I would say when it comes to a Wyckoff perspective, here we have our distribution, right? Our distribution turns into our accumulation right here, right? Here we have, again, distribution here.
For the wind?
Oh,
Yeah.
whoops. Go mute and mute. So we have, again, distribution coming here, right? Going ahead and, again, barely sweeping the low of that distribution here. So this is going to be like basically our accumulation is going to look like that, right? This is going to be our final manipulation down right here. We see the institutional candle sitting there, right? And then we see the market come up, distribute, right? I'll probably look at the distro like this maybe, right? And then we end up seeing the market come down and do what? Accumulate again here, right? So we're seeing the order flow really playing out, right? Like we're coming back into areas where we previously accumulated, right? Coming into areas where we previously accumulated. And even inside of this current low that we've seen here, right? We can see the signs of manipulation that are sitting here as well, obviously, because it is, accumulation, right? We could see these lows here, right? These lows going ahead and being swept out, right? Sorry, I should make this yellow to be consistent. I'm gonna make this yellow, and this here is gonna make this yellow, right? So again, seeing that, manipulation down, coming back into a previous zone, that's the kind of thing that I wouldn't want to look for when it comes to like shorting necessarily in these areas, right? So it's like, yeah, could we potentially sell off? Of course, right? If this whole thing ends up just being a manipulation, like kind of like what we were talking about here with dollar, if this whole push down just ends up, just taking internal liquidity and then buying up, then, maybe that's what ends up happening, right? But I think that, for right now, it doesn't really make sense to look for that, right? We would want to go ahead and, actually have like proper institutional candles down here, which we don't have. We just have gaps. And we would want to have, again, like the market really start to trade away and then start to give us market structure in the other direction, right? Potentially even having like bigger pullbacks after, that, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess if we do bottom out here, like I said, and we start to create structure like this, maybe we can find like smaller time frame opportunities if we want. If we see like again the right things at the top, but like again, that's gonna have to come during New York session to see for that right now. But I would say right now, again, I'm gonna favor this to just continue to fall, right? Especially since we came right off of a redistribution that looks like it could be just like a mitigation, right? Like if this is our final manipulation, this could be our impulsive, this could be our mitigation, right? And then we go ahead and have our continuation, right? So because of that, like, that's why I wouldn't really look for, the buys here, and same thing with Euro USD. That's why I wouldn't look for the sells inside of here. Because again, we haven't really shown, real signs that we've broken order flow at all. If anything, we just reaccumulated again, right? And then even here, like when we came back, right? Like that's even more so, right? Like we had our signs of distribution here, right? And then we come down and we have our signs of accumulation down in here, right? So again, just order flow, just holding and holding and holding and holding, right? So for me, that's kind of like how I'm looking at this. Again, like obviously, if we do pull back into here, again, that would be the same kind of thing that I would look for, for the potential next buys, right? So whether that be inside of this trap candle here, or whether that be inside of like, the extreme area with this accumulation, right? That would be probably like the main thing that I'd want to see for continuations higher. And again, these are just higher time frame zones, right? So, we would want to have like entry model triggers, come in when we come down here. And just make sure that like, again, we have like things to target to the upside. So whether that be like hopefully liquidity targets up top or gaps or whatever it might be, these are things that give us clues that, it can make more sense that we, potentially buy from there. So I'd probably look at this as a potential zone here, and then down here is a potential zone as well, because we've seen those signs of reaccumulation here with Euro USD. And I'd probably, like I said, keep looking for that until we come back into gaps here. And like, obviously even taking out like, some of the internal liquidity that's from there, right? I don't think we've gotten up there yet. No, we haven't. Have we gotten up to these ones? I think we have. Right? Yeah, it looks like we just barely took out those equal highs there with this, right? So, again, maybe we do get reactions, but for me, I'm more leaning towards just continuing that bullish structure. So again, basically our hope would be short-term sell-offs to give us long-term buys that we can hold for swings and stuff like that. And yeah, I'd probably look to even get like again underneath like these lows, right? Deeper into here or deeper than that, even into there. And that would be where I'd be looking to see the buys come into play, right? Cool, 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 cool. Cool, 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 cool. So that's EU stuff. All right. Really, obviously, all the rest of the currencies that are, very similar, right? We can see here we had a reaccumulation recently happen for NZD USD. We've been seeing like small pauses here, right? Like order flow. Yeah, in terms of continuations, I mean, we can take a look at this area here, maybe, where we have, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a reaccumulation, definitely. I mean, I would say so. Like we have big impulse up, we come down, we sweep the low, right? And then we continue. So this could be an area here, right? That would be one zone, or this would be another zone, I would say, for NU. But, NU would probably be the one I would like a little bit less because it's less likely that we'll actually get all the way back into the reaccumulation that's bigger time frame. And like these areas that are here, these are more smaller time frame reaccumulations, which obviously are going to be less reliable than, seeing other setups. So we'll see. NU again probably wouldn't be my most ideal setup, right? USD CAD, okay. And again, same thing with USD CAD. I think I see here, right? We have like here an accumulation, right? That accumulation went ahead and took out the high of that and then ended up becoming a distribution, right? Above the highs. Just like that. Right. And then really here, we're just kind of doing the same thing, right? Like we accumulated here. Right. We could probably do it since here. Oh, whoops. And let me check the chat here real quick. GJ? Sure, we'll check GJ in a bit. And then here we got accumulation, right? Taking out the highs of that accumulation and then creating a distribution over here at the top, right? So again, same thing as with dollar, like we're still showing bearish structure, right? And again, it's like if I want to, even though we had an accumulation here before, right? If I'm going to look for buys here, like I want to look at the high and I want to see that there's liquidity in the high, right? I don't want to look at the high and see that we perfectly took liquidity with a beautiful institutional candle, right? That's exactly the type of setup I wouldn't want to take, with like looking for buys personally, right? So again, pullbacks would for me be reasons to short. Whether we break the low or not. Ideally would be probably like, breaking through all lows and then coming back, but I doubt it. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But I would look at pullbacks to short as a whole with dollar. UJ. UJ looking mighty interesting. Looks like we might have just recently done an internal liquidity sweep. I think out of everything that I've seen so far, UJ will probably end up being my favorite for the shorts. And yeah, I mean, like here we can definitely see signs of distribution from here to here, right? We can see the relatively equal highs that were created here, right? And then we also have this this high here that we can see the market go ahead and really cleanly sweep to the upside, right? We can see how that zone also aligns with an area of imbalance as well. Again, really showing intent for more selling. So yeah, really, this could potentially be some signs for us to actually get like a higher time frame reaction from there, right? So, maybe again, like the only thing I don't like is like we had the liquidity here. It would have been nice if we held that liquidity and then pulled back. Again, because ideally, I mean, like I would want to have that kind of target, right? Like have some kind of liquidity to target when I'm coming back. So like if price does, we want to see what, oh, whoops. Let me do that distro again. So we want to see what price really does when it retraces back up into here. Um, in terms of like, are we going to have liquidity to the downside here? But I like this zone a lot as a whole, right? I really do like this zone. So I'm thinking like, again, we're going to look again for signs of accumulation, right? Hopefully we can get a small creek, right? And then we can get our signs of distribution inside of that area. And then, potential goals could be like gaps down here, right? That could be potential targets even. But honestly, like I'd probably, first, yeah, probably take it step by step because again, this is still bullish at the end of the day. But given that we took out a high really nicely and we have signs of distribution in there, maybe it could be worth looking at. Especially because we're bearish on dollar. Out of all of them, like I said so far, UJ is kind of looking the nicest. Jose, why do we identify institutional candles? How can we use them to our advantage? So institutional candles really show us very high volume, right? They show us, really where the intention is, right? And the thing about institutional candles is they're very, you know, like, uh, they're very like fractal, right? And that's one of the biggest things I like about institutional candles, is that like they show up on multiple time frames, right? So for example, here, like this is kind of an example that I was actually just doing with my bootcamp group a little bit ago, that I took a picture of. So like, this, for example, being a nice institutional candle, right? Let's imagine this is the 1 hour time frame, right? This is that same situation, but now on the 30-minute time frame that also has an institutional candle, right? And so why do I like that? Because not only is it showing me that price is being like, like obviously we're taking points of liquidity and stuff like that, but it's also showing me that we're doing it in a way that is showing very, very strong candles that, again, a lot of people will look for continuations, right? People see strong down candles like this. A lot of times they're like, oh, perfect. I got a really strong close. Let's go ahead and sell, right? That's why a lot of institutional candles happen that way too, right? They trap sellers in here and then boom, they just absolutely reverse, right? And stuff like that as well. And even just like, for people that are buying here, they're going to see that strong candle and be like, shit, I'm out. So like stuff like that, and again, like seeing that they're fractal and stuff just really shows me again, like the perfect timing that had to happen in order for these institutional candles to become fractal the way that they are. But yeah, really, I mean, institutional candles, they just show, high volume because they're very strong bars, right? Two, they show clear intention because they're not happening. It's not like it's taking the liquidity in like multiple candles. It's taking the liquidity in one candle, right? These things that happen, they're not really coincidences like that, right? So those are the more high probability plays that I like to look at from there. Yeah, gold will be coming up soon. We'll definitely tap in. Um, but yeah, so that's going to be that. And then we have, so here we have the distribution, right? Let's see here how this looks on different time frames, right? So we can see even here at the top, it looks like we already kind of had this, mitigation, right? Relatively equal high sweep. So yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I like to see, right? Granted, if we I would say if we hold like where we are now, and we again, slowly start to get back into this zone, yeah, I think this could be a really good opportunity to at least get down into the previous reaccumulation watch. I'd probably look at to be like somewhere around here, right? This would be like our first danger area, and then potentially even the gap, can end up being filled even lower, right? But if we end up again, um continuing to come lower and let's say we don't get up there and then we just start to sweep down or whatever and then we get up there, that's going to be a completely different situation because then we could have seen that maybe the market reaccumulated. So context is very important, like what happens to price when it comes into our zone, right? What did price do before? Personally, honestly, guys, I would really like it if we could just hold this, create a wick here and then slowly get on up to these imbalances, slowly get on up to where we swept here and see if we can position ourselves for shorts on UJ. But yeah, I'm liking the price action there the most. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about indices now. Okay. Actually, I'll talk about gold since you guys have been wanting to see gold so far. Hey, 5K. Okay, I didn't even realize. Wow, let's go. Awesome. Yeah, we'll go into Nas next. Don't worry, brother. Um, but uh, but yeah, so obviously with gold, big accumulations, that we've seen, right? So constant reaccumulations happening, right? So we can see here, right? We have this distribution here, right? That distribution goes ahead and turns into an accumulation, right? After having taken these lows, right? We'll go ahead and just do this as an accumulation there, right? So distribution that turns into an accumulation, right? When we see over here, again, we have our more noticeable lower time frame distribution, right? Distribution turns into an accumulation, right? This was obviously the buy that we called out last week. Perfect reaccumulation idea. Seeing the buy happen there. And then obviously just recently here again, right? We saw the signs of distribution, right? And then we have the accumulation here, right? So really bullish, right? Really, really bullish. Just distributions are very short-lived and accumulations are very long-lived. We are holding these accumulations so nicely for so long. So that's great, right? We love that. Obviously that being said, in terms of like continuing to buy, right? It's hard to say, right? I feel like, we've kind of had like from here since this reaccumulation onward, we haven't actually retested this previous reaccumulation, right? All we've done is like consistently like reaccumulate again and so on. So like again, like that could, bring possibility, that could bring danger, for potential buyers, right? Just because like again, like this is kind of what it does look like when things are overextended, right? It's been about 10 days since we had this bottom here, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like, I think when it comes down to it, like for me, like I'm not gonna look for buys when we come back in here, personally, right? I'm not gonna look for buys in here either because, I would be more fearful that we're actually gonna end up, again, maybe going for those lows, coming back for this gap, and maybe even deeper, right? Again, like we have previous reaccumulation down here, right? And I know that sounds crazy, like obviously gold is crazy bullish and all this stuff. But like, who says we can't come back to 4,300? Why not? So you never want to, like, um, marry a position in terms of like being in it forever and ever, right? Like obviously, like it's good to be in positions long term, like you said, like we talk about this a lot. It's best to be in positions longer term when you catch really, really good entries because you have the opportunity to, like be getting more profit without taking any more risk, right? But obviously you have to de-risk while the market is going up. So you still have to, think about where is it that you're going to take your partials? Where is it that you're gonna, close out earlier, right? Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 sec, sorry. I'm gonna pause the recording. So yeah, price has done nothing but accumulate. So you're in a good position, like it's just about how long is this expansion gonna last? And at the end of the day, no one really knows, especially when it comes to expansion, it's a fickle thing, right? It's one of those things where it's like obviously here, there's not really anything that's telling us it's gonna sell off. I would probably want to continue to hold. I definitely wouldn't want to like find new buy positions or anything yet. But yeah, I would say just be careful because if you're feeling, like think about the emotions you're feeling and think about what everyone in the world is probably feeling right now, right? Do you think some people maybe saw the gap and maybe they're looking to buy up from there? They're like, oh my God, a gap, we're gonna keep going like the same way that it did, when we were over here, right? So I don't know, think about the masses, a little bit. Kind of take yourself out of that. I'm not to like rain on your parade or anything, but it's just like, we just want to not be on the hopium. That's all I'm saying. Don't be on the hopium. Holding buys from, I put a 0.01, can't take partial, sadly. Oh, that's tough. That's harder now because now it's like the only thing you can do is just close completely, right? But yeah, I would say just don't get greedy. There's always new opportunities and stuff and whatever. Potentially this can continue to expand, potentially it won't, right? Definitely just the best thing you could do at that point is just move stops into profit, right? Whether that be previous accumulations or whatever. Because again, like imagine like there's still the possibility, like I said, that at some point we could come back and fill this gap, and that could end up being a 4,000 pip difference or something, right? So, or 400, I guess. I don't even know. Um, Holding buys from 4,100 to 4,350. Damn. However, I've not taken any profit yet. That's the only issue. Considering closing one now and closing one at 5,500 and so forth, mine are 0.012. I feel I'm getting greedy. I meant to put 0.05 for real. This is my baby account. Yeah, we'll do silver and we'll do GJ next after that. Um, but yeah, I mean, so 4,300 means you probably got in somewhere in this accumulation here. This accumulation pretty clean as a whole. Even here though, we also have gaps. There's also like, again, easily guys, like easily we can retrace and just get on a bit of a bear move and then, again, like February is coming, seasonality is bearish for gold, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see a short term, down push, but um, you know, just all I'm saying is just plan for all eventualities. Plan for all eventualities. That's all I'm saying. Like eventually the gap will get filled. So it's like, when, right? When is like a question that nobody, knows, right? And even with this, it's like, when does this expansion stop? Nobody knows, right? It's been expanding forever. right? Since like freaking 2022. So it's like, who knows, man? Who knows? But yeah, like you said, like, like I think the best thing you could do is just create price targets. Kind of like you were saying now. So like, 5K is a great price target, right? Even, silver being 100 is a great price target, right? To take partials at, right? Obviously, if you can't take partials, that's a different story. And then, maybe the next one comes in at 55, like you said. I would kind of also stay away from like potentially like very round numbers. Um, you know, Price tends to play with that. These are psychological levels that people are like, yeah, I'll take profit if it hits here, and then it never hits there, and that's how people get screwed, right? So, read the price action, right? Right now, there's no reason to sell. Eventually, when it does sell, I doubt it's just going to be like, like just straight line dumping, right? We'll get some signs, right? You might miss out on like maybe a couple hundred pips if we get the pullback and we break structure or whatever. Like you might miss out on the couple hundred pips that happen, but whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would probably advise, take partials, and then go from there. Because now we're getting a lot of gaps, man. We're getting a lot of gaps, very quick movements. People are very excited. I think we're getting a lot of hopium here, right? Like, look at all these gaps. Um, so always potential to be filled. And again, when the difference is that big, when the difference between here to here is that big, is like 606,000 pips, sorry. Um, just think about also what you're risking by holding the position too. That's also a risking all those pips in the same way, right? Which is why taking partials allows you to de-risk that. So then when price does come down, it's not so devastating. Can we do BTC last? Absolutely. I got in at 48.38. If it's 48.38, should I close and wait for the gap to fill? What a time to be trading. Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that, risking a 40% gain. Exactly. That's technically what you're risking when you're up. You're also risking that percentage. So it's like, all right, let me take 100% off the table, whatever, 200% off the table. You know what I'm saying? And then that way, if we do end up getting pullbacks, they're not as like big of a swing when it comes to how much percentage you're risking. And you also kind of gives you more room to take more entries if you decide to, right? But I think like, I'm a little scared of gold, honestly, just with the way things have been booming. But hey, man, I love to see it. 5K is a huge target, you know, that's huge. So I probably would still hold some. I wouldn't close it completely. Even with you at 43.88, so 48, no, 48.38. So that's like right around where I took my entry here, right? So yeah, that's like, yeah, it's only a 0.01, so I can see like definitely we would want to take partials. If you haven't taken any partials at all and you can't, you know, that's tough. Because again, this expansion can go, or we can just start the distribution now. So, but right now, all I'll say is looks bullish, but there are gaps to the downside that are scary. So be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. Like there is like, and again, like I talk about this a lot in the build your edge sessions, which is, you don't know, you never know, right? There is no way of knowing, this time it might have been the right decision to close, or this time it might be the wrong decision to close, and the next time it'll be the right decision or the wrong decision. So it's not about, okay, what's going to happen? Am I going to be right or wrong about closing right now? It's more so just about, just thinking about it from the context of your account growth. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, if the only thing you trade is gold, like, is a little scary. But if there's so many other assets you can trade. There's so many other opportunities that are going to happen every single day in the market. So it's like, sometimes it's okay, to just close up that one and then let something else happen from there, right? Um, so yeah, that's all I would say. Just keep an eye out for it and then go from there. But yeah, the gaps scare me. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I can really say about this pair right now because it's extremely bullish. I wouldn't look to short. But yeah, we'll see. Okay. So that's that. Let's go ahead and go with silver. I might take the whole 400%. See, that's another thing I wouldn't do, right? And I'll tell you why. Because you're gonna have the opportunity to, like, let's say you close half. Now when price pulls back, that 400% gain is not going to like be so crazy. Like, that 400% won't turn into 300. It'll turn into like 350, or because you took partials, right? So it won't, like, the volatility won't be as big because you've closed some of the position out, right? So you've secured a lot of that position. So because of that, you can kind of like allow yourself to do things over time, especially like with you, like with Taika, she's in a different position because she only has one entry. With you have multiple entries, multiple lots that are in there, not lots, but like multiple micro lots or whatever, right? That are in there, right? So it's like, you can let the market do its thing. Because again, like I said, like the chances are we're not going to see a pff, like a huge just straight line down. Chances are it's going to be a lot more gradual than that. Chances are we're going to have these distributions and these ranges and whatever that if you see later on that the price doesn't look good for you, you take partials here when you're in new highs and things are looking good, and then later on when things are not looking as good and like maybe you've lost like maybe a couple hundred pips or whatever it might be, then you can kind of take the decision to do the rest. And, you didn't secure the full 400, but maybe you got the full 350 while still allowing yourself to, continue with that upside. So that's kind of like, the best thing that you can do is like have bigger lots so you can do things like that. And like, just let things run a little bit longer. Cause again, chances are it's not going to be just straight line stuff, right? But eventually, we will probably see sell-offs, we will see distributions, and, like then there will be signs, right? There will be opportunities for entry for shorts, and those same opportunities for entries for shorts can be your opportunities to take partials with a little bit more of a clear mind about what's happening, right? Versus here where everyone's just on the hopium right now, everyone's on the hopium train. 5 entries, all 0.1. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, man. Yeah, so yeah. So let's go to silver. Silver booming, lumen. We talked about silver as well when we looked for the buys on gold. It was a much different situation. But yeah, we also had this area marked up because this was where we took our buys on gold last week. And then silver kind of did the same thing. So it came back into this gap here, right? And that's the same gap that silver has not traded back into, right? So we have that. And then we have that with this like zone already got filled in. And again, it was also a reaccumulation, right? So we do have the market going ahead and distributing here, right? And turning into an accumulation here, right? So price coming back, sweeping the low of the distribution, creating institutional candles here at the bottom, and then continuing to play it out, right? I believe like where we took our buys on gold was like right here on silver, right? So yeah, I mean, honestly, crazy booming, right? Obviously we're at like, I believe now, yeah, we're definitely way past highs on highs, right? Since 79. The highs here were at $50, right? Man, I remember like everyone talking about it down here, like talking about this sweep and everything. Like this was a freaking generational move, man. Crazy. Just crazy. But yeah, I don't know. There's only so much I can say about something that is so high up, right? Like if we hold order flow, great. This can be areas, right? If not, then this could easily, like if this order flow we don't hold, then this would be kind of like the bigger time frame area, that I'd kind of look for. But obviously, you never want to be going against the trend. So I'm just, keeping my mindset with that. If price does come all the way back down here, maybe we can continue there. But, again, if gold ends up doing like a bigger move down to its gaps here or down to its gaps here, then silver can easily as well go down into here, right? So, I would say probably like next areas to potentially look for safer buys would be like down here, like 30.93, and then down here, like 80. That's going to be the areas that I would look for. But like other than that, like, there's not going to be anything I can really do with this pair right now, you know? Like it's just doing its thing. It's just ripping. So we just gotta, you're either in there and you let her rip, or you're not in there and you sit on your hands and you look at other pairs, right? And this is also kind of why, like me personally, I don't like just trading one or two pairs. I don't like only trading gold or only trading NAS or whatever. I like to trade multiple markets because it allows me to like not need to like force things in times like this, and I can just be like, all right, cool, that's doing its thing. I'm gonna let it do its thing. I'm gonna let it wait for the higher time frame pullbacks. So I'm going to go ahead and look into JPYs, go ahead and look into cross pairs, go ahead and look into dollar pairs, Um, so yeah, cool. So that's silver. All right. Next thing we're gonna look at is crypto. So crypto is interesting. All right, it's definitely very, very interesting. First thing I'll say is like there is definitely merit to the idea that some people are looking at, which is that maybe we are already in the bear run, right? It's possible. I wouldn't say that like we're confirmed yet. I would say right now we're still in an area of previous order flow. I'll go ahead and show you guys even like with what my idea is, because I have this open just, like this was a perfect example of like a type 3 entry model that we caught over here. Go ahead and look at this and get a load of this entry here. This is a redistribution type entry. We had an institutional candle sitting here at the top, right? We had the type 3 entry model show up in there. Imagine catching something like this one and like freaking risking $50 to make 3.7K. Like, how ridiculous is that? I took this trade on live too. Obviously, I didn't hold it until now. I just left it here just to kind of show this execution. But like, again, why did we look at this? It's because we were kind of seeing the signs of potential manipulation, potential distribution, right? So again, like we kind of confirmed that when we did end up selling off, right? So what ended up happening here was, I would say, like, we definitely distributed here, right? We had these signs of distribution right here. Previously in BTC, we had a distribution here as well, which was something that we were calling out, way back in the day, myself and Pat, when we were on the sessions back then. We talked about this a lot during 2025, and then we ended up getting a pullback, pushing down, and we ended up again down here creating our accumulations, right? So we have this distribution turning into an accumulation that went ahead and brought us up. So the question here now is now that we're back inside of this previous low, are we going to see the signs of accumulation here? Right. And that's kind of like what we've been thinking about. What we've been seeing is like, all right, can we see this? Right. So like, even for me, I was looking inside of, here as this to be a potential accumulation with what was happening at the beginning of the year. We had like some nice institutional candles that played out here, right? We had some nice internal liquidity sweeps that played out right here, right? So this gave like a pretty good and clean, like short-term opportunity for potential buys, right? And even we can see that as we got into that zone, right, we end up having these equal lows, we sweep, and then we start to, build our way back up, right? So this here, definitely accumulation, right? But I think that now, like when we, went ahead and created this new high finally, we really saw the signs of it potentially turning into that redistribution here, and we're just seeing that continue now, right? So like let's go ahead and see this here, right? So we see how the market goes ahead and accumulates, and then when we get above the high of that accumulation, we do so not in a way that's very strong, to be honest, right? We do so really with this, huge buy to the upside, which, isn't really what we would want to, see, right? If we were going to really look for strength. So kind of similar to here, where we accumulate here, and then when we shoot up, right, there was definitely buy setups in here with the accumulation, but we end up turning into, a distribution, right? So very similar, what I think that we're seeing here, right? So accumulation turning into a distribution, right? Something like that, right? More so the distributions like up here, actually, right? So yeah, like potentially I'm thinking like with the way that we broke above, like that's the kind of stuff I don't personally want to see when I want to look for buys from here again. It could happen, but like this is kind of what I'm seeing like so far. And here we see a gap because it's this, but like let's look here, right? We previously had like an accumulation that definitely happened, right? So we definitely had an accumulation right here. Last week we called out short-term buys, right? Again, they're short-term because not only did we have like a redistribution that happened here, but we also had, the distribution that happened up here as well, obviously, right? So we kind of just been seeing distribution after distribution. And even here recently, like I said, we had this accumulation. We were looking at the fact that we had this liquidity above last week, and we were looking for price to go ahead and, sweep down below these lows, right? Get back into this gap, and then maybe have a short-term buy up towards the liquidity, right? That's exactly what happened. But then it used that liquidity to reverse, right? So here so far, not great for bullishness, to be honest. Just because of the way that we took the high. But now we're in an interesting position, right? Because we have swept out a lot of liquidity, and we're in really the point of what I like to call the point of no return, right? Because what we can see here is when we look at the structure that we've seen so far since this accumulation, right? We've had the market going ahead and, this is the low that really went ahead and created the new high, right? We could definitely see like all the liquidity that was sitting below here. And we can obviously see here that we previously had an accumulation that is now being run out, right? So is it possible that this could end up being a sweep that we're seeing right now? Maybe, right? How can we really look to confirm that? Well, again, we're not going to just see the market move in a straight line. We're going to start to have market structure move in the other direction, right? We'd also want to see clean institutional candles with this sweep. So let's see what the candles really look like on multiple time frames here, right? So right now we have this 4 hour candle that went from there to there, right? We could potentially classify that as potential institutional candle. We do have a trap candle with this last 4 hour candle, so maybe we couldn't get, one more sweep down. Um, and look for from there. But you know, we are definitely in an extreme area that could potentially honestly look good for buys actually. Again, this is meant to be a higher time frame overview. But yeah, like again, it's like it could be like again, like that this whole thing is a redistribution, but if it's not, then we'll probably see this low hold, right? If we see it break, that's gonna really confirm for me that like, all right, chances are we're coming for this low, and like honestly, we might even still break through here, right? So again, like higher time frame wise, when we're talking like 4 hour time frame, until we break this low, we could easily still be in order flow, right? This could easily still be another leg to the upside. Um, but and like again, this can end up being a distribution here that turns into an accumulation here. If that's the case, again, I probably would expect the sweep to end up happening. So that's what I'm personally leaning towards. Even if this is an accumulation here in this area, we probably will see price get below here. Just given those two things, like given the way how we made this high wasn't very strong, given the way how we did it here also wasn't very strong. So I probably lean towards that continuing because we don't really have enough evidence of like, this current price action looking bullish at all. But again, if we do end up seeing this become a sweep, we start to break above, right? Then maybe from there we can look to, look for entries, after we see kind of that change of character in the current price action, right? That would be really what I would need to look for buys again. Or like again, like you can always look for type 3 setups, like I said, and like, look for this to be a sweep, have your stops below and see if it goes or not. But personally, I'm not going to do that for this example because when I look at the high that we came from, right, I don't really like how that high happened, right? It looks more like that high has signs of manipulation in it. Okay, guys. Um, so yeah, that's really that. Let's see here. Where were your entries on UJ again? Crazy. Oh yeah, you were probably looking at the entry there. Weekly looks lit. The walk down was super clean. I'm sitting bearish on BTC. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I think like, it's starting to look that way. Before we took these highs, I was like maybe, when we were down here, we were seeing those signs of accumulation. But I think we might have just turned that into a redistribution with this high here. And so, from there, potentially like again, at least minimum will probably end up below 80K. And then below 80K, if we end up getting buys from here, perfect. If not, it's looking a little spooky. It's looking a little bit spooky, like 30K spooky type of vibes. So that's okay. It's not a bad thing. All that means is we have opportunities to load up, right? But that's what BTC is kind of starting to look like. 30K would be crazy. Yeah, that's what people said about 20K too back in 2022, right? So it's like it seems crazy, but like yo, very possible, very very possible. This was our last bear market here, right? So like here we have November 2021, and then we end up getting a pullback from 60K all the way down to 15, right? Right down to like 15.6 or something, right? So crazy stuff. And again, this is just another reaccumulation, right? Distribution that turns into an accumulation here. And then we just get that walk up, I say yes, right here, sorry. And then we get that walk up here and stuff. So yeah, not looking great. Not looking great. Even here on the weekly, we see this last up candle. Like that's exactly the type of price action we don't want to see for buys personally. So again, like looking not great to me, right? Daily, right? That push up to then sell off so aggressively, not great, right? If this next daily candle just booms it though, then maybe this ends up just being a sweep on the downside and then, we go from there, right? We just got to react to what the market gives us, right? But so far to me, not looking great for BTC, not looking great. All right. Now we also asked about NAS and indices, so this will be the last thing. We're already kind of going over time. But yeah, ooh. Well, obviously we've been following NAS for a while, right? Really nice buys here. I remember these buys. Um, but yeah, so we ended up obviously seeing, reaccumulation after reaccumulation really happening. We recently had an external sweep on liquidity here, right? So because of that, I'm still very bullish on Nasdaq, and I've been bullish on Nasdaq. I think that what we saw here was an accumulation, right? So where we had the spring go ahead and do that external liquidity sweep, right? And then we had the market come up, right? We saw the market come above these highs here, right? We saw the signs of distribution here, and we actually called out after seeing these distributions to look for accumulations here. I actually have a video of that as well that I need to edit. Yeah, I'm behind. But yeah, we have this accumulation here, right? I believe it was like here somewhere. We were like, yeah, look for one more sweep. Potentially this can end up being an accumulation. I have the whole recording of it, super clean. And this ended up being the last bottom of 2025, right? And so from there, obviously we've really been respecting this current accumulation so far. But we at the same time, we also haven't really seen very strong highs yet, which isn't great. But that being said, the lows do look decent, right? So what I'm seeing here within the lows, again, like we're kind of coming back into this. We came back already into this previous accumulation here. And we did another accumulation, right? We can even see how we had pretty much an internal sweep on liquidity with this accumulation there, right? And so far, this is the lowest of 2021. This is so far the low of 2021. Sorry, 2026, 2021. Where am I living? So yeah, so then now recently, we saw last week price really setting up for a beautiful distribution. Before I saw that this happened, I was actually going to predict that we were most likely going to be removing these lows here. With that distribution, we can see the institutional candle here at the top of that, right? So being the UTAD and stuff, we can see how it is still kind of respecting order flow. I don't expect these highs to hold long term, personally, right? But I also, I don't know. I wouldn't even be surprised either to see like a bigger pullback come from here. But like eventually we're gonna take these highs, right? So either one, we just hold order flow and we continue here to buy, right? It's possible because there is an accumulation there, right? We definitely see the internal liquidity get swept. Or two, we even decide to sweep these lows here, right? And hold this, right? But I'd probably favor the low of 2025 to probably hold. But yeah, that would be kind of like the main zone I'd be looking at would be like in here. And if we don't respect here, I don't know if I would like instantly look for buys in this because like again, we already came pretty deep. It would be pretty weird to see us like break here. If we break here, we might even, do the extreme low to this sweep here. One thing's for sure though, this is I think the bottom, like for NAS, before we end up reaching new all-time highs, right? That's what I personally think. I think that here we purposely swept that low. We saw a really clean accumulation. And like, from there, it's just about trying to find, well, where are we going to bottom out for the next high? So if I were to like really pay attention to like one of those assets, like, I would probably pay less attention to like gold and silver right now just because it's booming so hard. And I'd probably pay more attention to things like NASDAQ. Because again, I think this is going to offer us our next swing opportunity where we can really see that higher time frame align with that smaller time frame, right? So yeah. Let's see what you guys are seeing now. You're not sharing. Oh, okay, cool. You do see it. Cold. Gotta go shovel more snow. Oh, damn it. Thank you for being on. I'll catch you next session. Yes, sir. How's this looking? It's not the clearest. Okay, so you have the NASDAQ, the same distribution I just marked up right there. Yeah, perfect. So let me go ahead and pull this up for everyone. Wait, why can't I do my Zoom here? Stop sharing. Perfect. And we're gonna share here again. Awesome. So here, this looks great. I like what you've used for the SC and the AR. That looks really good. I would probably label this as ST and phase B, and then label this as a UT. And then from there, we have this liquidity buildup. We end up getting this spring, which is pretty much the same zone that I've spoken about already. So this is the potential accumulation that I was looking at too. This is also the same distribution I was looking at, so that looks great. We got the strong move down for the BC to the AR, test the top, test the bottom. Yeah, this could be your UT, right? And then, UTAD there. Yeah, that's really the same thing I was looking at. I was looking at this potential institutional candle with that move to the upside for UTAD. And then, we've now had this gap down. So personally for me, I would like to see this, again, get a little bit deeper. And then from there, look to see if we can potentially buy up, right? So I kind of have the same idea as you. for this. And again, like more so, it's like these are going to be higher time frame zones, right? So we need to look at for the entry model to happen inside of there, right? So either a type 1, a type 3, or whatever it might be in that area. That's basically what we would want to look for to like really trigger us into the trade. So I wouldn't like just buy being in here, right? For me, it's really about putting in the smaller time frame with that. But very, very clean Wyckoff markups. I like what I'm seeing here a lot. So well done. But yeah, so I would say, yeah, the first zone is going to be the same thing as like what you're looking at, like basically like as we come down. And essentially the goal would be like if this is going to be a distribution here, then what we would want to see is we would want to look and see like, okay, are we going to get signs of accumulation in here, right? Or are we going to end up going lower, right? Maybe deeper into this area or deeper into this area, right? But I definitely think if we get deeper into here, I would really like to look for a swing position from this low, because of the way that we swept out there. So I'd probably expect that to hold. But we'll see. We'll see. But it's definitely been consolidated for a while. We're gonna get a big push, right? We're either gonna get a huge move out bullish, which is what I'm leaning towards, or a huge move out bearish. But I think like bullish is what I'm leaning towards. We're getting constant reaccumulations. It's just about, when are we gonna get that final moment? So I'm excited to position myself, honestly, for Nas buys. I think this can be like the long-term swing buy that we're looking for. So yeah, that's exciting. US 30, same kind of idea, right? Except it's just a little bit farther down. So I believe the same low that we were looking at for NASDAQ is over here for US 30, right? So it's a little bit of a different situation. The question really just becomes like, all right, again, do we hold this current order flow that we've been seeing? We can see that we've been holding for a while, right? And then do we just do that and continue? Or are we in for a higher time frame pullback, sweep all of this, right? Stay in this gap and then go? That's also a possibility, right? No way to really know, right? Until we really start to break structure. Right now, structure is still being held. So I would probably just look to continue to do that. Like even like within this low that we're in right now, like this is still structure holding, right? So it's like here we do have like a potential distribution, right? But at the same time, we might have also had an accumulation with the way that we had our price action down here. So I do kind of like even this for buys as well. So I think it kind of aligns with it. If NASDAQ ends up holding this low here, right? Maybe US 30 ends up holding this low, or maybe sweeping a little bit lower. Sometimes we get like divergences between them. But again, it's just all about seeing like what happens during our sessions, right? But yeah, that's what I would kind of want to lean towards. So like I said, I'm just waiting for the opportunity to get our bigger time frame sell off. Bigger time frame buy up again, right? I hope this isn't the bottom. I don't think it will be. We did take out all the liquidity from the distribution. But at the same time, we would want to see ideally institutional candles down there. So I think we probably will get lower prices. So yeah, maybe you could find sells, but for me, I'm just gonna wait for the buys. All right. But yeah, guys, I think we're good for today, right? Appreciate you guys being on this session. Oh shit, I didn't do GJ. My fault, bro. We're gonna do GJ for you. So yeah, so here we got GJ. Yeah, really same idea. Oof, look at that, man. Yeah, really same idea as what I'm seeing with UJ. It's looking like we could be distributing, right? Like the way that we created this new high over here, for me is not great. Like not really ideal for what we want to see for, like bigger time frame buys up. Ideally again, like finding areas of liquidity and stuff would be better. Right now, that's what it's looking like to me is like this is looking like a potential sell-off, right? So if I were to kind of align that with the UJ idea, potentially here in this gap, we might be able to find, some opportunities there, some signs of redistribution as we come into there. So that would be probably my higher time frame zone to look to continue to sell. Obviously, like, yes, like there is structure here and like, we're holding previous reaccumulations and all that, but there comes a time when it's too much. There's just too many buyers, I feel like, right? So I would personally favor this to, again, get below there. And then maybe once we get below here, if we decide to be bullish again, then we can reaccumulate and continue, right? But yeah, I'm definitely seeing liquidity down here. So that's what I'm personally thinking. And then again, like our next zone, we do have like imbalances down in here and stuff like that as well. So that's even another hint that we might potentially get, sells back down. So yeah, kind of same thing I'm thinking as with UJ. But personally though, if I were to choose one between the two, I would personally choose UJ because we're also bearish because we're bearish on dollar and we're also bullish on JPY, right? Potentially soon because they're doing some changes to how they're doing things as well. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. So anyways, guys, we'll see how these zones end up playing out. This is very much only higher time frame analysis. Appreciate you guys being on the call this long, and I'm excited to run up this new community. Reach out to me if you guys want roles in the Discord, and we'll go from there. All right. Much love, much appreciation. Peace out.